I need one of my legal laddies.
Yes.
And who has answered the call for his country once again? But
Now is the time.
steely-eyed, piercing blue-eyed,
Glenn Kirschner.
handsome Glenn Kirschner. Good morning, Glenn Kirschner.
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 Good
What did I say?
Good morning, Steph. You're already cracking me up.
Good morning, Glenn. Someone posted a picture of you as a much younger gentleman, which is, I must say, wow, made me considerably less gay. Okay.
Yeah, back when I had hair and I didn't have the silly little goatee, I think you could barely pick me out of a lineup.
You are every bit as handsome. There's something about steely-eyed gentlemen that have given their life protecting America that just makes me a little giddy, Glenn. But let's
Thanks, Steph.
Glenn, I have to tell you, I always joke about it. Everyone says, I look to you to make me feel better or save my sanity. This is a truly terrifying moment in our country, isn't it? I mean, the confluence of events that we see happening as of today.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you've got a president who has surrounded himself with this, what I would call a cabal of cannibals and clowns. And, the clown part is obvious. The cannibal part, I mean, these people they're institutional cannibals. They're constitutional cannibals. They're moral cannibals. I mean, they are killing and eating everything that has made this country what it is. Not always great, but it's made this country what it is. And, we have done some horrific things in our past, but, I don't mean to sound Pollyanna, but I've always believed in the MLK saying that, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it surely bends toward justice. And I think our history proves that.
Yeah.
But now we have this kink in our arc, which is, turning us in a really dangerous direction. And I think we're trying to straighten out that kink. That's what Mueller's doing. That's what Nadler's doing. That's what Raskin's doing. That's what Schiff is doing.
Yeah.
And the good news is, from my perspective, that's what the courts will do once all of these battles are joined in our federal courts.
Oh, I knew you would make me feel better. I mean, because I just, as a lifelong prosecutor, Glenn, who is such a patriot, I can't imagine what it feels like to go, okay, first of all, we know we have a wholly illegitimate president who has 2 illegitimate Supreme Court picks. Supreme Court just rules that he can use money, allotted for the military, taxpayer money, that was not approved by Congress to pay for his wall. We have no Department of Justice.
Better about that one, Steph?
Yeah, but I mean, we have no Attorney General of the United States, and now he's moving to put someone in charge of our intelligence that is another sycophant. But yes, go.
Okay, so let me make you feel a little bit better about the funding of the wall ruling that just came down. So basically, that's what we call a standing issue. They didn't really decide the substance of it.
Right.
They decided that the Sierra Club and the ACLU, who brought suit to try to stop the shenanigans that the president was pulling, they weren't the right party to bring this suit. So let's assume that the president listened to your show and really disliked it and you. I know that's
I think that's a given.
Right? Okay. And so he passed an executive order, and he said, the Stephanie Miller show is now banned. It may not broadcast anymore. That would be an obvious First Amendment violation. Now, if I
prefer a different example, but go ahead, Glenn.
Stick with me because it has a happy ending.
Yes.
Okay.
If I brought suit because the president did something that violated your First Amendment rights, the courts would very likely say, "Hey, Glenn, get out of town. You're not the party aggrieved here. You don't have a right to bring suit, so you don't have what we call standing. It's Stephanie who's got to bring suit." So that is what I think the Supreme Court said. They didn't say he gets to be, look, Congress has the power of the purse, and Trump has proven himself to be a presidential purse snatcher. And Congress is the aggrieved party. Yeah, ultimately, we the American people are all aggrieved because he ought not be able to rob military funds to pay for his wall. But all the Supreme Court did was say, listen,
right, standing.
You need to have the right party to
Got it. Okay.
So who is the right party?
Well, it may very well be Congress because the president violated the congressional power to spend.
Okay, let's get to the happy part, impeachment. Except, first of all, I've said yes and impeach and we have to vote him out. But clearly, Glenn, there's a lot of smart people that are very, very concerned about 2020 being a free and fair election. Someone said, how did 2018 happen? Well, Adam tweets, Coates is getting ousted for taking steps to prevent foreign attacks on American elections, if you want to know how things are going. So Coates, that's one of the reasons we had to, Seth Abramson tweeted, note that Trump's stooge Ratcliffe is coming aboard at DNI at exactly the moment Democrats are beginning their fight to access the FBI counterintelligence report detailing how Trump colluded with multiple foreign governments and may yet be a clear danger to national security. That part is a bit terrifying, right?
It's a lot terrifying. And I just saw a soundbite with Ratcliffe saying, and I may misquote it, but he said the person who learned the most about the Mueller report at our hearing was Bob Mueller, because he didn't write it. He didn't know anything about it. It was put together by Hillary Clinton's defense team. I mean, if that's the kind of conspiracy this guy's going to drag into the office of the Director of National Intelligence, how many times can we say we're in really dangerous territory? I mean, it gets worse and worse. I keep saying justice is coming, and I believe it is, but I've also been saying it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
And I think we've just seen that with the potential, appointment of Ratcliffe.
Our friends at Mueller, she wrote, said Coates is out, and after consulting with Nunes, Trump traps Ratcliffe to be the new director of national intelligence. Ratcliffe is one of only 3 people who sit on both the House Judiciary and the Intel Committee. 45 has a mole. I mean, this is exactly what Devin Nunes, his role has been, right, is to give the White House a heads up on,
Would it surprise anybody if Nunes was the next director of the FBI?
Oh, my God. Or CIA, someone said.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Glenn, you tweeted, Dan Coates, you've seen something. Please say something.
Yeah.
You said, message to Dan Coates, please speak out about the threat Trump presents to our national security. Your country needs you now more than ever. Don't turn us away. I couldn't agree more. This is just, this really is American national security, Glenn. And he does seem like a patriot to me.
Yeah, and I hope he is one of the few who stands up and speaks out about what's been going on in the Oval Office. I mean, the one example that keeps ringing in my head is when Andrew McCabe said in a meeting in the Oval Office where they were talking about the North Korean ballistic missile threat, when the president blurts out, I've talked to Putin about it and I believe him, not you all. I mean, what else do we need to say the man's unfit, to say the man needs to be impeached, to say the man needs to be run out of the White House on a rail? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. You also, you said, and I've heard you say this, but you also tweeted a novice prosecutor could easily prove Trump obstructed justice many times over. Yeah, I even to a lay person, Glenn, when you read the Mueller report, when you just listen to his simple damning yes and no answers at the Mueller hearing. So talk to us about this whole impeachment strategy. What do you, because obviously you've seen what Tribe and others have said. What do you think about the way they're going about this? One thing that I'm, I guess, a little confused about is why, so I guess they're called the moderate Dems that won in Trump districts, they call them. Well, they can't be that big at Trump districts if they voted for a Democrat. So they voted for checks and balances, right? I mean, they might not have specifically voted for impeachment, but I don't understand the nervousness of anybody given the evidence. Do you?
No. I think the only option right now is impeachment for a couple of reasons. And Lawrence Tribe and I have talked about this, and I always get a kick out of the fact that a gutter kid from Jersey like me gets to talk to a Harvard professor, and never thought any of this would happen. But
you're not just any kid from Jersey. It's not like you're the situation or something,
This situation. So here's the way I see the necessity of impeachment. Trump has already announced that he will again accept foreign interference in 2020. In other words, he will once again cheat to try to win re-election. So if we take that as a given, then why would we sit back and say, let's forego impeachment in hopes of voting him out in 2020? The only reason he got in 2016 is he cheated, right?
Yeah.
He cheated by suppressing information about what he was doing with porn stars and playmates, and that was a violation of the law. And he cheated by encouraging and accepting interference from Russia. And we all know that impacted votes. I mean, you may not be able to count up the votes, but for gosh sakes, people don't dump billions of dollars into social media.
Of course it affected. I mean,
public opinion, unless it's going to have an impact.
And there's nothing in the Constitution, though, is there, Glenn, about achieving your office through fraud, which is what he did on so many levels.
Should be. Look, In the criminal law, there are lots of propositions that you lose rights if you have unclean hands. The example I always use is if you are going to trial and you kill the eyewitness who can prove you committed the murder that you're on trial for, guess what? You lose the protections of the Constitution, because otherwise the Constitution says you have a right to confront and cross-examine the witness against you at trial. But guess what? If you kill that witness, you lose that constitutional right. How is it that the same principle doesn't hold true for a presidential candidate who lies, cheats, steals, and commits crimes to win the presidency, and then holds up the presidency as a shield against being held accountable for those crimes?
Yep.
It's called forfeiture by wrongdoing. That principle is applied every day in our criminal courts. It ought to apply to the president, and but for that horrific OLC memo saying you can't indict a criminal president, it would apply. So, I mean, listen, Barr is not going to let anybody write Trump a traffic ticket, never mind impeach him, right? But, you know, someday Barr will be gone, and I assume it will be in January of 2021. And that is probably when this man, Donald Trump, will get dragged into court for the crimes he committed.
Yeah.
We can only hope.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you feel like Barr has essentially made SDNY go away, though? I mean,
no, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I think SDNY. Listen, SDNY. I mean, there's a reason they have that tongue-in-cheek nickname, the Sovereign District of New York. They're strong. They're fearless. Yes, they are under the direction of the Department of Justice. Every one of the 94 U.S. attorneys' offices is beholden to the Department of Justice. But if the Department of Justice steps in and tries to do something that is flat out illegal or unethical or wrong, I'd like to think SDNY will stand up and find a way to push back against it, even if it means breaking ranks and being whistleblowers. I do not believe Barr has killed the 14 cases and investigations that have been farmed out by Mueller to various U.S. attorneys' offices. I think those things will ultimately come to fruition. He could have killed the Epstein prosecution, and he didn't. Right?
Okay.
So I have some hope those matters are continuing.
Glenn, before you go and understand, I don't ever want you to go. See what he would charge to co-host, Glenn. I need him here, or Travis. I need him here all the time.
That's going to be an expensive plane ticket. Yeah.
So you just heard Jamie Raskin say we are in an impeachment inquiry. Swalwell said this is an impeachment investigation. Asked if the committee is an impeachment investigation, Nadler replied, in effect. Glenn, legally, do they have the same power with whatever this is as opposed to having voted already on or however? I mean, or do we have the same power to make them comply?
We have more power. We have more power because the courts have traditionally said the word they use is zenith. The Congress's power is at its zenith when it's in the setting of an impeachment hearing. And here's the good news. We'll end on an upbeat.
Okay.
Once Nadler filed papers in federal court with the word impeachment in those papers over and over and over again, it's on, and we can't now turn back.
Yep.
You know, that was a difficult, considered move by Nadler and company, and I'm so glad they did it. And I know we're all looking for instant gratification, political gratification, and it's not going to be instant. It's going to be a long, slow, steady uphill climb. But now that impeachment has been filed, that word has been filed in federal court, everybody, the judiciary will sit up and take note and will begin ruling over and over and over again in favor of the House, in favor of the enforceability of subpoenas that the House has issued, and against these bogus privileges that the McGahns and the Hope Hicks of the world are invoking. The courts are going to start knocking them down, and we're going to start hearing from the people who Donald Trump tried to obstruct.
Yep, the fact witnesses. Yeah, and as Nadler said, he is going to get the impeachment he so richly deserves. And I think it's like Schiff said, it's this, wall of obstructionism that is ongoing that has basically caused it. Right?
It's going to crumble, though. The wall will crumble.
Yeah. Glenn, I was thinking something inappropriate, but let me just say thank you.
Oh, God.
And thank you for being on that wall for America. We appreciate it. Thanks for coming on so last minute.
Thanks, Steph. Anytime.
All right, Glenn. Talk to you soon.